This is Andrew from IT Mooti, and I'm going to do a walkthrough of using Zapier with Ontraport, using the webhooks in campaigns and custom objects. So webhooks in Zapier, webhooks in Ontraport, and then how we can relate data from another system into custom objects using Zapier. So first thing is I'm just going to list a couple of the things that I'm going to go through. So in this particular example, I'm going to create the custom objects for you on my Sandbox Ontraport account. So what I'm going to do is create a company custom object. Then we already have the contact custom object, and then I'm going to create another custom object like a jobs or a feedback or something. I think I'll do jobs. And then what I'm going to do is create a job form that collects fields and populates the data collected in that form into the company, the contact, and the job, and relates them all together. So first things first, I'm going to jump into this Ontraport account. I might zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to read. And to get to custom objects, you go to administration and custom objects. If you don't have any objects yet, you'll just see this, contacts. So the first object I'm going to create, I'm going to call companies. And a company is going to be parent to the contact. So a contact is going to be like a, maybe what we'll call an employee or something like that, or yeah, maybe we'll just call it an employee, keep it simple. I want to see if I can build this as quickly as possible. So the idea is to just give a really basic example. So I'm going to create a new section. The new section is going to be the company information. So this is where you create your fields for the new object. One of the fields that we're going to have is a company name. And now it's a good idea to make this unique because we don't want necessarily duplicate companies. And if you make this unique, it means that if you relate or if you add, basically you can't have two companies with the same name. I guess that's the most important part about it. I might also do something like have another just a couple of bits of information, maybe like the country of the company, and what else could we do? Well, actually, you know what? I'll just keep it really simple for now. So we'll just have this as a company, and what I want to do is have a relationship where underneath the company I can see all of the employees of that company. So obviously you can have a lot more fields than that underneath a company. Okay, next step is to create the relationships. Just wait for that to load. Also, if anyone has any questions while I'm doing this, I'd be happy to answer them. Actually, it looks like something's stalled here. I'm just going to refresh and see if that's saved. All right, let's see if that worked. Okay, yeah, we're up to the step 3 of 4. So I'm going to say the company is related to the contacts, and this relationship is a one-to-many relationship. This company is the parent, and where should it be in the other object to the company's record? Or where should the other object be? I'm going to put it in the company information area. And where should we put the company in the contacts field? I'm going to put it in the contact information area. And now in the company record, I'm going to call this employees. So it's going to be a table of employees data. And in the contact record, I'll just call it parent company. Because we already have a company field, you know, the standard Ontraport company field, that's why I'm using parent company. Okay, so that's one relationship created. Also just got to create the name of how this is going to look. So just call it company name. I'm not going to do anything else there. Now I'm going to do one more object. This object is going to be jobs. Jobs are going to be related to both companies and to employees. Basically, it's just the case example is probably where people are booking, or maybe we'll call it bookings. So people are making bookings against a particular people will be making bookings against a particular employee, and then under the company object, we want to see all of the employees and all of the bookings, and under an employee object, we just want to see all of the bookings. So we'll call this a booking object. So there's two relationships we're going to have to create for this one. The relationships are going to be, well, first of all, I'll add the section, so we'll just call it booking information. The fields I'm going to add, what would we have? Like a description, maybe a booking ID, just in case it needs to be updated again. Maybe we'll make that the unique one. That's if we're coming from like a booking system that has its own booking IDs or something like that. We'll say booking date. Make that a date field. And let's just keep it at that for now, just to keep it simple. So we've got a description and a booking date and a booking ID. Again, if anyone has any questions while I'm doing this, or if you want any clarification, just comment in the feed and I'll answer. So a couple of relationships we're going to have. Bookings are related to companies with a one-to-many relationship. So a booking can have one company can have many bookings. The booking is the parent. And where should we put the other object in the bookings record? This is going to be in booking information and company information. We'll call it the parent company again, and bookings. All right, Rob, good. Glad you can hear it and see everything. I know, Rob, you're an avid user of Zapier, so I don't know if this is going to be new to you or not, but this is actually something that Jason Paises, who's also in the community, taught me earlier this week. I have been using Zapier a lot, but having multiple relationships created was something that was new to me. So let's also create it to contacts. It's also going to be one-to-many, and the booking is going to be the child. In the booking record, it's going to be in contact information. In the booking, we're going to call it employee. Yeah, we'll just call it employee, and in the contact record, we'll call it bookings. So now that all the relationships are created, I'll use the booking ID here and maybe the booking date. Yeah, to identify it in the different records. Okay, so going back to my notes here, I've got my custom objects and relationships now created. The next step is to create the job form that collects all this information. Now I'm using job form simply because it's just one of the many apps that you can use. Obviously we could be using anything in here, but job form is just a really simple way to get data. So that's what I just have decided to use, and I'm very familiar with job form. So let's create a form. I'll create a blank form and I'll just call it new bookings. So imagine that this form is on your website, or it's an internal form for phone sales or something like that. And you've got to collect the name of a company, the employee, and the booking time that they want, or the booking date that they want. So we'll start with getting the company name. And then we'll get the contact information. So this will be first name, and I'll just duplicate this for last name. We'll also get the email of the contact, and You can get other things, like the address and stuff like that. I might just keep it simple for now. So let's get the booking information now. So we'll get a booking ID. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just use the Jotform submission ID for the booking ID instead. So instead I'll get the booking date. And maybe the booking description. Now you could use a drop down for this, so maybe that's what I'll do, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So booking description would be let's pretend it's my company, so we do like a free info session project or API integration, something like that. So now what we've got is information that's going to be, we also did have a country field, didn't we? So let's do that. So I'll just get a drop down for the country. Grab predefined options here. So this will be we have a country field in the company that I created, so that's why I'm putting this here. So now we're going to be creating a company. We're going to be creating a contact under that company and some booking information. Just double checking if there was anything else. Don't think there was. Let's see, just quickly create a booking here and see what other fields I had. Booking date, description, ID, and the employee. Perfect. Looks like I've got this maybe around the wrong way. I have. Now this is a mistake, but this is good. I want to point this out. I've got the relationship around the wrong way here for the parent company. It looks like I've got parent companies as like as a child to the booking. So I'm just going to go back and change that. It's really important to get these around the right way. So under bookings, I think I created this relationship. Go to manage relationships, and here I just need to delete this relationship and redo it. So it's a one-to-many relationship, of course, but the parent of this is the company. So the booking is the child. Got that round the wrong way. So what should we call this relationship in the booking record? It's going to be the parent company. Now that becomes more of a field, not a table. And under the company, we'll call it bookings. Okay, let's go back. It didn't look like the relationships were showing there. I'll just double check. Yep, they're all there now. So now if I go back to a booking, I should see what I intended to see, which was an employee and a parent company. Great. All good. Now I'm going to go and submit this form. So I'll publish it, open it in a new tab, and we'll just run a test submission. So we'll call this test company 1 from Australia. First name is John, citizen, email, and booking date. We can put whatever we want in there, and we'll make that for a project. So the reason why I'm putting a test submission through is so that Zapier has some information to go off once we start building this Zap. Okay, so going back to my notes again, just to make sure I'm on track. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do is just to explore the API docs with you. So Ontraport's API documentation looks like this. If you click on this button here, it'll take you to this live code examples page where you can actually start playing with your API. So in here, I've placed the API from my Sandbox account, which you can get from here, going to administration, integrations, API key. So I've just grabbed a sandbox one from my account here. Now, when you come in here, you'll see that all of the custom objects that you've created should be loaded in. So I'll refresh this because I've just created them, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Now, this is an important part because this is how we know what the fields are called for Zapier to pass the information from Jotform. So now that I've refreshed this, we can see companies and bookings. Bookings, if I open it up to get the metadata, just click try it out under your own object here, and it'll then give you all of the information that you need for Zapier. So first of all, we've got the object ID is 10,014. And then I've got my fields here, which are my custom fields, booking ID. That's a custom field there, so I know the name of it. There's my description, and there's my booking date field. And this is the important part, knowing what these fields are called and what they do, and what type of text, what type of field they are, so you can pass the right information into them. Cool, so let's now do the fun part, which is linking the two programs together. So click on Make a Zap in your Zapier account. And the first thing I'm going to do is get a new submission from Jotform. So I've got a few accounts in here. I'll just grab my Jotform account. The form should be at the top, the one that I've just created. Okay, we now fetch the latest record, view the submission, you can see all the information's there, and continue. Now, one thing I'm going to point out here that's important, if you want to pass dates into Ontraport, it's important that you send it in the correct format. And I found that the best way to do that is to change the format into the X format. So I'm going to use Zapier's formatter here to just change the date that's coming through from Jotform to a format that works with Ontraport into the Ontraport fields. So I'm just going to go to transform, format the date. The input field is going to be from the new submission, and it's going to be the field booking date. The to format, now this is the important part. The format that I've seen that Ontraport likes the best is this Unix timestamp. So that's what I'm going to use. The to and the from time zones I'm not worried about. And the from format, I've just got to list it the way that Jotform has it, which is mm-dd-YYY. So that's the format that I can see here. So it just has to tell Zapier what format we're getting the data in and then what format to publish it in. That's now formatted, and if I hit create and continue and view the date time, that's the output that Ontraport can accept. All right, cool, that's done. The next step is to start creating the different parts. Now, what I've found works well is using webhooks in Zapier. So click on webhooks rather than using the Ontraport like this one here, the app. If you use the webhooks one, you can actually create objects. Now, if you think about what we've got a company that needs to be created, a contact that needs to be created, and a booking that needs to be created. I find the best way to do it is to create the most, like the object that is the highest level first, which is the company. So the one that's the parent. So I'm going to use webhooks. The URL that we're going to use for this webhook is the objects one. So I'll just show you how to write that. And we're going to use post for the webhook. So the URL is the objects one. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So if you come up to objects here, where is it? Not get objects, but post objects. Yeah, basically it's this URL that I'm using here, the post objects one. So I'm using this as an example, and the URL looks like this. I'll just paste it in here. So it's the api.ontraport.com/1/objects. Payload is form, that's fine. And then this is where we have the data. The most important one that you need is the object ID. So the object ID is, if you go back to companies in here, the object ID for companies, go back to the meta and try it out. Actually, it says it right here. It's 10,013. I'm just going to click try it out so I've got my fields ready too. So my object ID, place the data in, it's 10,013. Next, I'm going to get the field names of the fields that I want to create. The two fields are the, I think it's the name, just double checking here. It's going to be the company name and the country. So company name is F2264. So just get that and pop it in here. And the country is F2265. That's all the data that we need to create the company. So now I'm going to look up the new submission and link the company name to the company name field. Then I'm going to link the country name, country entry to the country field. Don't worry about any of this. The last thing you need is your headers. Your headers are simply the API app ID and the API key. So these are your the parts that are basically telling Zapier how to link to your account. And you can get that from here. So if you go all the way to the top, it's just this information here, your API app ID and your API key, and then just grab this information that you've already been using on this document and populate it here. Okay, that's everything that you need to create the company. So I'm going to create and continue. It was successful. So now I should be able to come in here and look at the companies, and there it is. It's my first company. Now, obviously there's no employee information or bookings yet, so we've got to do that next. So the next step I do is I create the contact. So underneath this, hit the plus button to add another step, another action. And this time, to create the contact, I actually do use the Ontraport connection. So connect your Ontraport account. I'm going to use my sandbox account again. For setting up the template, this time it lists all of Ontraport's fields, and so you don't have to go and get all of this information from the API. I'm still going to use my submission data from Jotform. So for the email, I'm just going to grab that one. For the last name, I'm going to grab that one. First name, that one. And now to link the company that we've just created, I've got to get the parent company field. So that's this one here. That's the field that we've got. And I'm going to get the ID that's passed on the reply of this post data here. It's just called data ID. And that's the ID of the company that's just been created. And that's the magic. That's what actually links this contact to the company that has just been created. I'm not going to do anything else here because we aren't collecting any more information really on the contact. I'm going to click create and continue, and it was successful. Not finished yet though, because we've still got to do the job. So go back to Ontraport and have a look at the contact. Here's the contact that's been created, and we can see that it's linked to the test company. Yeah, that is epic. I know, Rob, it's awesome. And you can just imagine all the things you can do here with this. I'm just doing a very simple example. Okay, so the next part of this Zap is going to be another webhook to create the job and link it to both the contact and the company. So this next one is again going to be a webhook post. It has the same template, the same URL, just the api.ontraport.com objects one. You can use the same headers again, so that doesn't change. So I'll just copy and paste these across from my other Zap. So the only thing that changes here is the data. And the first bit of data that we need is the object ID. And the object ID we can get from the Ontraport API here. So the object ID for jobs, or bookings, sorry, is 10,014. Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, it's totally epic, I know. This is the beauty of Zapier and Ontraport's automation. Okay, so now we need the fields that we're going to be using. So the fields that we have are the description and maybe the booking ID and the booking date. So it's basically these three fields. So we'll get that. 1, 2. I'm also going to need the field for the contact and the company, and I'll show you how to get those too. So there's the booking ID. Oops. Basically, it's 2278 and 2279. Okay, now I'm going to link the data. So description, booking ID, and booking date. The description is going to be coming from the Jot form submission, and that's the description. So it's project. The booking, sorry, what was the second one? I forgot. Booking ID, I'm going to use the submission ID, I said. So that's just this ID here from Jot. And then the final one is the date. Now the date I'm going to get from the formatter. So I'm using this format, the X format, which is what I've found works best to get the correct date into Ontraport. Okay, finally we need to create the relationships now. So the relationships we have to look up here. It is the parent company field, so that's the company one. So F2282. This is going to be taken from the post, F2282 data ID. So it's always data ID for that particular data that's been posted there. And then the employee is F2281. And this comes from the data ID from the create update contact. So just scroll down to data ID. It's basically the contact ID, not account ID. Where is it? I've lost it. There it is there. All right, see you later, Rob. Thanks for watching. Rob's just jumped off. So that's all of the data now that we need to create the booking, link it to the contact, and link it to the company. Finally, we'll now test this out. And this is the last step of this Zap, this multi-step Zap. All right, that's all done. I'm going to give this a name. It's going to be new bookings test, and I'll pop it in my test folder. It's turned on, it's all ready to go. And let's just take a look in Ontraport for that job, that booking that came through. And here it is. So this is what it looks like. We've got the description, the booking date, and that's the correct date. We've got the booking ID. Interestingly, the employee hasn't been linked, so maybe I've made a mistake there, but the test company is there. So the employee should have been this one when this was created. So I'm just going to double check my Zap again. That's really strange. If you just have a look here, it seems to have all my information just seems to have wiped. I'm just going to, hopefully that isn't the case. So because it's going to take a little bit of time to rebuild it. But I have got another one that I've built previously that I can show if that's the case. So sometimes this happens with Zapier. It's a bug, I think, where if you don't save it, you get this problem where it wipes it. So here's new booking test again, and it looks like it's off. Post, edit. Oh no, everything's there. That's good. That's good. But it does look like something's missing. So data ID is there. We don't have the contact data ID. So I'm going to re-add the contact data ID, which is F2283. So saving is really important. You know, make sure that you save if you're building a big Zap like this. You don't want to have to redo it all the time. Keep backups. Once it's built, though, you can always keep a backup of it. So that's what it should look like. So unless I accidentally clicked a delete button or something, so I'm going to retest this again. All right, so it looks like, yeah, it's not allowing me to push it through because this is supposed to be a unique field. So I'm just going to delete this one or these two here. So I've got no bookings in there, and try it again. So because I made that ID unique field, it didn't like it. Oops. Same thing happened again. It seems to have removed that ID. So I don't know if this is a bug. Where it's not allowing me to link the data ID for this particular one. But I'll try this one more time. So data ID is there. This is how it should look. Like I said, it's all about getting the data to create the object and then link it to the pre-existing objects that you've already done. Okay, that's worked this time. This time I'm going to turn it on, see if I can save it. See it on my dashboard. And just double check that all the information that I had in this template is saved. Looks like it's saved now. That's great. Okay, in bookings, I'm going to open up to see if there's any new bookings for that test we just did. Okay, thanks, Kyle. Sounds like I made a mistake the first time using F2282, so maybe I did a duplicate one. Yeah, thanks for that, Kyle. You're probably right. Although, again, it didn't come through. So let me just double check what it's supposed to be. Maybe I've made a mistake here. So the employee field is F2281. That's why. My bad. I've been using the wrong number. You know, sometimes it is just good to double check. Just going to delete this one more time. So this is the testing phase, which is so important before anything goes live in your real systems. So as you can see in my notes here, test is a big part. You know, you've got to keep testing it, make sure it's working exactly how you want, and then you can set and forget it after that. Okay, let's do one last create and continue for this test, and then we'll do a live test. Okay, so let's go back in here and refresh one more time. Yes, now it's worked. Okay, now this is the next step. We now grab this link, and what I'd like to do is, if anybody is online now and wants to test this out, I'm going to send you this link. So I'll just pop this into the comments in the Facebook feed. And if you want to make a submission, we can then take a look and see how it's working for the submissions that you guys make. So I know Kyle, you're online. So there you go. I've just pasted the form link. If anyone wants to start making submissions into that form, we'll then be able to test. I'll watch them come through into Ontraport. So I'll make my own test now too. So just open this in a new tab. So company name, test company 2, country, Andorra, Jody Garcia. Booking date, do in September 12th, and API integration. Submit. Okay, looks like Kyle's done a submission as well. Let's take a look. We now have refresh. Okay, so one thing that I'm going to point out before this is that Zapier doesn't necessarily run them all immediately. It can take a minute or so. If you do want to test this and push them through, you can just simply go to your Zap and force it to run. So to force it to run, you just have to click run here. So I think this particular Zap probably runs on like a 5-minute cron or something like that. So if I don't click run, before I click run, I'm just going to refresh this one more time. Hopefully we'll see both Kyle and my, okay, there we go. We've got it now. Okay, so the 5th one that was coming through is my one. So you can see the employee is Jody Garcia, the parent company is Test Company 2, and the 6th ID here is Kyle, parent company Ontraport, and there we have it. They're all there. So the beauty of using custom objects is I can now go into the company, I can open up Ontraport, and I can see I've got the United States field, and I've got this employee under there, and I've also got the job under there. If I go to company, if Ontraport were to submit another one, I'm not sure exactly how that works. We might have to use update rather than creating a new one. Yeah, there's different. You could use the webhook to query Ontraport to basically look up an existing company to find a unique ID or something, and then use that ID instead. But anyway, there's a lot more you can actually do with Zapier and webhooks. This was meant to just be an introduction. Hopefully, now that we've got to the end of it, I've been able to enlighten more Ontraport users how to use Zapier for custom objects. So we created the custom objects and the relationships. We created a job form to collect fields for company, employee, and booking. We explored the API documents so that you could see what the object ID is and what the field IDs are. We then created a multi-step Zap to take the job form submission, to create the company object, the contact, and the job, and relate them all. And then we tested it. And it is working, as you can see. We've been able to get Kyle to make a submission. I don't know if anybody else has made a submission, but that is at least an example outside of my own submission, which is good to have. So thanks everybody for watching.